So hi, everyone. We are so excited to have you on our panel discussion today on innovation through teamwork. Now, we will focus our discussion on how we use teamwork and collaboration through our process with implementing and expanding our telehealth program. The panelists that we have on our call today all played a key role in starting up our telehealth program and making it a successful program. So first, big thank you to you guys for doing what you've done, what you continue to do, and I'm super happy to have you on this discussion today to share your insights. Now, a couple things before we get started. The first thing is we'll go through several discussion points together, and second, then you can use the chat feature to the right of your screen, ask questions, make comments. The point is that we really want to hear from you and we really want to be able to answer your questions. So please feel free to use that chat. Now, fun fact on telehealth here in Cora. The first thing to kind of point out or highlight is that within the first month that we implemented telehealth, we saw over 10,000 visits just in 1 month. Since the start of March, so over time, we've seen over 44,000 visits on telehealth, and that's a lot of visits. Now, to do what we did, we had to pull together a good group of minds, such as those on our panel, and we had to think about, okay, how are we going to implement this program? What are we going to do? And collaborate and work with each other to do so. So let's take a moment to introduce our panelists. We have Lynn Curry, who's our VP of Payer Strategy. She works to maintain relationships with our insurance companies and specifically for telehealth to make sure that we can service members. We have Jamie Sigurdsson, our Director of Workers' Compensation, and she also maintains relationships but with our workers' compensation accounts. Then we have Nick Inocencio. He's our regional manager in South Carolina, and he served as a telehealth clinician since implementation. We have Christy Link, who is a senior clinic manager in Jacksonville, and she currently serves as a telehealth clinician. And then we have our lovely Gay Colley, who's our regional trainer in South Carolina, overseeing South Carolina and North Carolina, and she played a key role in developing and figuring out our scheduling processes. So let's get to our discussion. So our first discussion point for our panelists are, can you guys explain how our telehealth product is an example of innovation?
So I'll kick that off, Daphne. So really, if you would have asked me back in February if payers were ever going to pay for physical therapy via telehealth, I probably would have laughed at you and said, yeah, right, just not going to happen. But then we get into March and we start, foraging into this brave new world. I get a call from Javi saying, hey, can we get the health insurance companies to pay for telehealth? It's like, well, let's give it a try. And that started, communications with the payers who were trying to figure out what they were doing as well. It was working with yourself, Daphne, of trying to figure out, okay, as we're getting this information in, how do we get it out to the field? What do we do with it? It was looping Jamie in, what are the workers' comp payers doing? And it was literally in about 2 weeks, we not only had the majority of the payers agreeing to pay for telehealth, but we had Cora Vision set up on Bridge with all of the great information that was available to the field. Obviously that progressed and changed as time went on, but it took a lot of people with a lot of hours and a lot of emails going back and forth. I even at one point had to say, hey, raise my hand. I can't keep researching payers if I'm responding to 50 emails an hour from the field about what's going on. And out of that came the Cora Vision email box, that others helped to monitor and filter some of the questions.
Basically, it's really cool because we had an empty slate. Not in a complete empty slate. We had a little bit of a base, but we pretty much had an empty slate, and we had to fill a gap very, very quickly. And like Lynn said, it was rapid pace. I'm pretty sure most of the people on this call, we were putting in, 15, 16-hour days, just trying to get it done. But we were able to, with minimal experience and an empty slate, we were able to fill a gap so quickly because of the collaboration and the ability for us to take the key components from each person. And no one person said, I'm going to take this on my own. We all said, okay, what can you do? What can you do? What can you do? And, we really just were able to warp speed, collaborate and create something better than I think we ever envisioned or expected, because it's been a vision of ours for a long time, right? We've talked about telerehab, and we've actually had baby fragments of telerehab. We just never knew how to roll it out. And, COVID forced us to be able to take a long-standing innovative idea and develop it in a way that is just groundbreaking, not only for us, but a lot for the industry too, for physical therapy, the way that we've been able to do it.
And that's the thing about innovation. Usually innovation is either something really new or something that you innovate over time. And obviously something really new takes a lot of work. But to do it right, like you guys touched on, it does take teamwork. Okay, so what steps did we take to start our process of innovation for telehealth? So from your perspective, because we all took different steps and contributed, but from your perspective, what steps did we take to start our process of innovation for telehealth? Nick, you want to share?
So, fortunately, like Jamie was kind of alluding to, we already had a platform sort of, right? We had Cora Vision that was out there. It wasn't really utilized because insurers weren't paying for it. So we kind of knew how to do this. But then kind of the floor dropped out from underneath us back in March. And, patients were leaving the clinic quickly. And, we started getting emails down the chain. Lynn's telling us, all of a sudden, this insurer is going to cover telehealth. And Jamie was great about getting a bunch of the work comp networks in with telehealth. And so, as we were all scrambling, I just kind of realized I am probably the best person to really try to organize this. Rather than kind of push this down to clinic managers and have them call people that are canceling, I just literally went through schedules, looked for, payers that showed up pink that didn't come in, and started texting and emailing and calling these patients saying, hey, I know you don't want to come in because of COVID. We have telehealth. Are you interested? And I would just wait for my phone to blow back up, and, I'd try to match the phone number that I called, 2 days ago with, the phone numbers that's coming in, and I just start calling them. It was just very organic in that sense. I Googled how to FaceTime with somebody who didn't have an iPhone, and I was like, okay, Google Duo works. So, my first patient was a 85-year-old lady who I had to talk through how to download Google Duo on her phone so that we could, connect. But that was it. It was almost kind of like a fight or flight response. We were losing a ton of patients. And I just thought, well, here's an opportunity for me to really contribute and connect with these patients and kind of help our region stay afloat.
Yeah, so you got yourself organized, figure out what you needed to do, and you did it, right?
Yeah, the organization came later. It was pure chaos in the beginning. I'm not gonna lie, but yes, over time a process did develop. Yeah.
Yeah. Gay, what about you? What process did you take in innovating for telehealth?
So the whole scheduling, when we started this, as Nick said, we were scrambling. What I love about our organization, to start off with, is that we had a dilemma in front of us, and we quickly didn't wait, didn't let any dust run. We didn't have time for that. So it took steps and then modifications and then fine tuning.
Right.
So when we started to schedule, like on Nick, and we couldn't see where Nick was or if Nick was available without going into 12 different schedules or 30 different schedules. That was a little bit of a challenge, what we all had to do, not just myself, not just Nick, we all had to do was to have a sense of humor and to be transparent with patients. We scheduled them on a time that Nick wasn't available. We had to call them back. Just being honest and saying, hey, we're trying to figure this out as well. That whole scheduling process was a little chaotic initially, but we got through it. And through collaboration, and IT was amazing throughout this whole process. I mean, they quickly just stepped up day in and day out, and we ended up with something that worked for everybody. And it turned out to be seamless, pretty much.
Yeah, I'll jump in there a little bit. So, I mean, the way we kind of fixed that initially was I had a calendar on Outlook that I just shared with everybody and said, fill it in with patients. And then, just give me their phone number and how you want me to call them. And then, so we used that. That was a little muddled because everybody had access to it, so they could easily accidentally delete something. IT quickly solved that problem, right, by making sure that we could gray out other clinics if I was doing a telehealth call during a certain time. And those things kept happening. IT came out with a report that we could run so that we could just have a list of patients to call instead of, Gay or I having to look through schedulers to try to identify patients that were canceling. So, all this stuff that we were scrambling to do that took a really long time. Man, IT was on top of it, and they really kind of helped streamline that process for us pretty quickly.
So not only was IT part of that team as well, but it was trial and error, right? Like we tried something that we thought would really work, then maybe we found challenges along the way, and we decided, okay, how are we going to fix it and continue to innovate and grow? In terms of challenges, since we're on that topic, Christy, what challenges have you faced being a clinician through telehealth, and how did you overcome that challenge?
So there's lots of challenges that have been kind of appeared along the way. I think one of the biggest challenges was buy-in from patients. Like, how are you going to do my therapy? I'm at home. I don't have all the equipment that you need. But it was easy to let me show you what we're going to do. Let me explain what we're going to do. When the photo, I've actually used the photo article a lot lately about how we've been very effective and efficient with getting patients better when they're at home. So using the terminology of this is what we're able to do when you can't do things at home, we can actually try them now. That was a big challenge, like within our region, was just getting the buy-in from patients. Another way that we overcame that is we had some really good PSCs that were able to explain telehealth and push telehealth. And so we used those PSCs for every clinic in the region to call those patients to get them scheduled for telehealth. So it wasn't on the clinicians that were doing telehealth, because I know that I was working 7 to 7 most days, like treating patients every half hour. So to get on the phone and try to convince people to come in was pretty difficult. I think the other challenge that I kind of ran into was finding the time to see all the patients that wanted to do telehealth. As we got bigger and we had the buy-in within the region, we needed more clinicians to find time for those patients. So it was a really good problem to have. And I think the communication, whoever developed Emerge, if that was you, Gay, that was amazing to have all of our people in one clinic that we could go and see who had openings. Whoever developed the listserv, the telehealth listserv for Florida, I know we had one for everybody, and then we made it for Florida. It was so easy to move patients around and help each other out when people were out sick. If we need somebody to move because they were Spanish speaking, it was just, you had a challenge, and then within 24 hours, like, it was fixed. Like, we had a solution coming for it. So it was really exciting to see. I was invigorated this entire time. Like, right now, I feel like now that it's calming down for the holidays, I'm like, oh, I'm a little tired now, because I feel like we've just been going, but everybody has been so excited about the telehealth aspect of it. And so while we had challenges, I think that we slayed every single one that kind of came to us, which was exciting to be a part of a company that is able to do that.
For sure. I feel the same way. I felt super invigorated and super pumped up to be doing what we were doing day in and day out. Really with all of you, I talked to you, gotten each other pumped up and like, okay, we're going to do this. Okay, let's tackle it this way or let's tackle it that way. And I really think that that's how innovation evolves over time and makes our products better.
Mm-hmm. And Daphne, just real fast on that. For those of, so Daphne, myself, and Susie have kind of been dabbling at this and trying to sell this program and get buy-in pre-March for what, like 3 years, probably. And so for us, I think there was also like, you know, that anticipation and excitement of we have an idea, we know we want to do something, we just don't have a way to implement it yet. And so sitting on something for so long, I think the important thing to understand there is don't ever give up on a potential innovation, because we could have easily 2 years ago been like, this is a dud, we're never going to use this, and not continue to fine tune it, because we were still looking at platforms and coming up with different ideas, and we obviously didn't have half as many challenges because we didn't implement it yet. But the process of building it, of designing it, and what we wanted from it, right? We already knew that when we went to payers, we weren't going to say, oh, we're going to do telerehab for half price. You know what I mean? We already had an idea that this was going to be an equivalent program to face-to-face therapy. We were going to make sure that it was something that was going to provide the same outcomes. But so I think a huge point is when you have an idea, if it doesn't necessarily thrive quickly, or if it doesn't get buy-in quickly, it doesn't mean that it is a bad idea. It just means that the timing may not be perfect at that moment. And when the timing is right, if you're prepared, you're going to blow your competition out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. I think the reason why we became an instant leader, there's really two reasons why we became an instant leader in telehealth. One is exactly what you're saying, Jamie. We already had a foundation there, which just put us miles ahead of every other company. The other thing is our core values really shine during this time, right? I mean, we stayed flexible. We just scrambled and did what we had to do. We worked smart and streamlined things. We collaborated and talked to each other constantly. Yeah, we served everyone. We focused on results. We came out with research that said, hey, this thing works. We have a commitment to excellence. We're training people to do this well. I mean, I think you take any one of our core values, and in this situation, I mean, all of them applied. And that's just a testament to the company that we don't just kind of write them on paper and leave them there. We live and breathe them. And, that's honestly how we survived COVID, was because of that.
Absolutely. Which takes us to the point. How do you feel have changed as an organization as a result of implementing telehealth?
From an organization perspective, I think it really has, to Nick's point, elevated us in the eyes of the community and the eyes of the payers as a leader. Pre-COVID, it would take an act of God to get United or Optum to even return a phone call to us, okay? We came out of this, with Optum reaching out to us in conjunction with United to say, hey, you guys were our number one provider of telerehab in the country. How do you do it? That just, I think all of us being able to work together and pull this off, it elevated our respect not only in the communities that we serve, but in our payer communities, and it gives us better relationships to move forward in the future.
To kind of piggyback off what Lynn said, I had some patients outside of the region who were furious that who they were seeing for PT wasn't providing telehealth. So they called around to find people who were doing telehealth. And they were so happy with not just the care that they were receiving, but how streamlined the process was. And I think what we've learned is that it doesn't have to be perfect at the beginning, but when we collaborate and have teamwork and like pull together, we can streamline the process like pretty quickly. So it's okay that it's not perfect. We can roll it out, and then it's okay to make changes and to say something's not working because we don't take that personal. So I think we've been very clear with communication, and so it's just allowed us to continue to grow and grow and grow because nobody took the feedback personally.
And it's okay to say, I don't know. You know,
Right.
Just don't say I can't or we can't. It's okay to say, I don't know. We have to figure this out, you know.
Yeah, to what Lynn and Christy were saying, not just in the community and with our payers, we grew in terms of our trust amongst one another. We all showed up day in and day out, and very quickly, I think we all learned that it takes every last one of us, and we've got a lot of brilliant minds. Not one single one of us know everything, but when you put us all together, look at what we achieved, and in a big way.
Yeah, and Daphne, you and I have had, so since the inception of our program and the amazing job of our team, I've been able to go into new contracts and tell them that this is another service we provide. And we may be one of many payers for brick and mortar, but we are the exclusive payer for the tele-rehab version. So, you know, there's some work comp payers where they're like, okay, well, we're going to let them choose where they want to go for, you know, if they're going to go to physical therapy. If they choose not to go to core, you may be preferred provider, but there's going to be a second and a third. There are no second and thirds for tele-rehab. You have one option because there has nothing to do with geography or I want to, you know, there's no other option because we are the only one that's going to provide the service that is at the level that they expect. And it's also easier to have one service provider for tele-rehab. Because they have expectations, consistent expectations. So we've definitely gained some market share there by being exclusive, right? So that's huge, is to offer a service that there could be potentially competition down the road, but we've carved out some exclusivity with regards to our relationships. And I think that's going to go a long way for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I've seen. It's external relationships and internal relationships, like Gay was talking about, that it's really strengthened, and it's going to help continue to increase our market share as well. So, what in your perspective, what are some ways that telehealth has helped our patients and or our customers? So again, what are some ways telehealth has helped our patients and or our customers?
Some of our patients aren't leaving the house. They see their four walls. Their family doesn't come and see them because they can't, right? They're immunocompromised, they're high risk. And that 1 hour, 3 times a week means so much to them, just to have somebody to talk to have somebody that cares about them, that wants to make sure that they're getting the best care that they can get. You build those relationships. And I mean, I've had people cry and say thank you because they're scared and they just needed somebody to talk to who understood or could educate them on what was going on and then how we could help them with their ailments that they're going through. I mean, there's sometimes when we would see Medicare patients and, you know, through that whole time, a lot of it's just education on what's going on in the world. And I think it's just helped that mental aspect as much as the physical aspect to kind of help them thrive while they're stuck at home, because that's a long 9 months. And it's really cool because I still have one patient that calls me and just to see how we're doing here because we've just built such a connection.
Cool.
Yeah, they know we care, right? So they have a connection to somebody, and that's really cool to me that, you know, that there's some people have never picked up a phone before and used video conferencing, right, before this. And now not only are we saying this is your form of communication, but this is your form of medical care, and this is your form of rehab, and this is how it's going to be for who knows how long. And I think in addition to providing therapy, we've also given them that level of comfort that, okay, there's a lot I can do in this space that I wasn't confident in before. So I think probably some of the patients even go, okay, now I know how to do FaceTime because I had to do it with my therapist, and now I can do FaceTime with my family, and I can, I can go here and do this on, they're branching out with their own level of comfort with regards to technology, which is huge because it's great when an innovation leads to growth in so many other areas.
Yeah. I'll be honest, even though I was a telehealth therapist, I was a bit of a skeptic at first. I was like, how is this going to work? I can't get my hands on the patient. There's no way this is going to work. This thing's going to be a dud in a month. And as I started doing it, I'm talking to people for the third and fourth time, and they're getting better. It's happening. And so, I kept trying to push that message out, right? Guys, this works. Please recommend telehealth to your folks. When that article came out, with photo results that show that we get great results, that was just really proof to what I was already trying to preach. I was surprised. I was pleasantly surprised that people actually got better. And to Christy's point, I think a lot of patients just like connecting with another human being during quarantine, right? And it was almost just as much of a counseling session as it was a treatment, because what are you going to do with your chronic pain if your mind's a mess? So we're talking to them about not just what exercise they should be doing, but just kind of where they are, how stable are they, and it's fun. It's fun to be able to connect to somebody that way. And one thing that we really kind of pitch for telehealth when we're even recommending it is that you get 30 minutes to talk to a professional one-on-one. I mean, it's very rare that actually takes place in any physical therapy clinic. So it's a unique experience for them as well.
For sure.
And I think you also said, how does it, with regards to our clients, right? It wasn't just our patients, but also some of our clients. And so I think what we've been able to do is, from an employer standpoint, or some of the larger employers, for example, Miami-Dade County Public Schools, they were actually using this prior to COVID. They were one of our only payers that were accepting of this, and now they are blowing it up. They're like, this works. Let's make sure that if I have a bus driver who can't get to therapy because they're gone from 7 to 7, and we can schedule something later, or we can work around their schedule, or when they're on a break, and we can make sure that they're getting their treatment. So I think from a partnership, again, serving everyone, right? One of our main pillars, but not only that, we're serving everyone and offering such a variety of opportunity and options. So there's no longer the limits of 8 to 5, or there's no longer the limits of I can't drive to you, or I need transportation, or even translation. Look how much our payers are potentially saving on translation, because we can provide a Spanish-speaking therapist anywhere when we offer telerehab, right? So, I mean, that could be potential. I have some payers who say, I don't want to pay for translation. It's too expensive. It's not something that I want to pay for all the time. So I know we have our parameters for what we want to, choose when they're appropriate, but that's another opportunity as well, as a way for us to serve a whole segment of the population and give them better access anywhere that they are, remote, second language, all of those things. So we're able to just basically literally reach everybody at this point. There's no limit anymore at all.
Yeah.
Those limits are gone.
Yeah.
And I think, from the payer perspective, again, it elevated us to really a go-to therapy provider, whether in the clinic or telehealth, because we are the ones who stepped up. You talk to Florida Blue, one of our largest payers, and they're like, oh my God, anytime something comes up with physical therapy, we're like, look what Cora does. With telehealth, look what Cora does. The example earlier, United and Optum reaching out to us and saying, you're our number one. Medica PCP also, hey, you're doing our most telehealth visits. we've proven that we are the solution for their members. And then I think we even carried it further when clinics started opening up. Some people became more comfortable with coming back into the clinic. That, again, we pivoted as a collective team to the hybrid model that says, hey, come in for your evaluation and let us do that face-to-face. And then we can do a couple telehealth visits. Let's do your comfort level. Let's schedule you, and I've heard these stories, as we've gone through this process, let's schedule you if you're nervous about coming into the clinic. We have an hour where you're going to be the only one in the clinic. So come in at that time, get your eval done. Now go back and do telehealth for a few visits. So, it just, I think, demonstrates again to the community, to our providers, to our payers, that we're not just a physical therapist company, we're a solutions company.
Yeah, that's so awesome. That's one of the main things that I learned. The other thing that I think of as we're talking is how we serve each other too as employees. And what we've done through telehealth is a catapult into employee development and how we engage with each other, how we communicate with each other. It's made me a better communicator. It's made me a better employee because I can think quicker, I can act quicker. So I think, too, it really tackles, and it has helped us tackle all the people that we serve. Like you said, Lynn, our community, our payers, our customers, our clients, and even our employees. That was one of the biggest surprising things for me. So if we go to the employee standpoint, why do you guys think, you specifically, why do you think you were chosen to be on the telehealth team?
Of the relationships with the payers.
Yeah. Yeah. And your ability to do so, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Mine is just knowledge of the work comp space, payers, and my negotiation abilities. Mm-hmm. I don't take no for an answer very easily.
Yeah. So, why do you think?
Honestly, I was just going to say, honestly, I just threw my hat in the ring, right? Like I said before, we were kind of in chaos mode, and rather than try to get a bunch of people on board with this, I was like, I'm just going to do it and see what we can do with it. So I don't think anybody selected me. I just kind of said, all right, I'm going to run with this.
Good point.
I think we started in Jacksonville that clinicians were doing the telehealth within their own clinics. And I just had a really good following on the west side. And so when we went to telehealth specific providers, I was chosen. But I'll be honest, I asked Kat what I had to do to stay in the clinic and not be furloughed. And she told me, you need to get telehealth visits on your schedule. You need to keep, west side's numbers up. And I did. I had a wonderful team that just worked their butts off to get patients in the clinic and on telehealth. And we've done a really, really good job as a region and a company as a whole to do it. So it's been fun.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, to Kristen's point, well, to everyone's point, I think whether we volunteered or we were just the logical ones, we do have a certain flexibility. Nick, it was, as you said, it was much easier for you to step up than to assign this to someone else. So we do have that flexibility, but we're also the type that we do step up. How can I help? What can I do to further this? Because it just means so much. I think we're all just committed and driven and compassionate too. We had a need, people need, and we met those needs.
When opportunities present themselves, we also never turn anybody away, right? So Cora is really good. If there's an employee that wants to be involved in something and they put themselves out there, I think Cora is really good at saying, well, we'll find a way to develop you into that program, or to add you to that team, or to listen to your ideas and see what we can work with regards to opportunities you have or what you want to discuss. That's for those of you that don't know, I started out at Cora as a tech 20 years ago and just kind of climbed my way up. And nobody ever stopped me. You know what I mean? Nobody said, whoa, wait, you can't do this, or, or we're not sure about that. So I think it's really cool that when you are willing to put in the work and you're willing to be a part of a team and you're willing to think outside the box and not be scared, right? That's, I think, the biggest thing with innovation is you cannot let fear limit you, right? Fear is a complete destroyer of innovation. You have to be fearless when you're innovating. But I think anybody who works at Cora who wants to create, develop, and design their best self at work, it's the only company I've ever worked for who allows you to do that.
Cool. So another point, looking back at your experience with telehealth, what has it taught you specifically about teamwork and collaboration?
We definitely, not one person working on telehealth could have done it themselves. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
There's just no way. You needed to bring in the experts. You needed to bring in somebody who could fix the challenges of scheduler. I mean, I don't even know how to look up scheduler. We had IT that was able to pivot. We had clinicians who got excited and said, "Yes, we can do this." So the old saying, "It takes a village." It really does take a team to rapidly roll out a program as big as this and make it as successful and make the company better for it at the end.
Yeah.
Communication and organization. Sorry, those are the two words for anything going forward. If we didn't communicate and Daphne, you didn't keep us organized, we would, I mean, Lynn and I would be emailing each other at 10 o'clock at night, and she'd be like, let's get this to Daphne to coordinate and organize. So, there has to be like somebody holding everyone accountable and keeping everybody organized, but then there has to be like a lot of communication. For sure.
I was in email jail a lot.
I think we all were. Yes. Nick, were you going to say something? What has it taught you about?
I was just going to say, about collaboration. I think it just really highlighted its importance. Like, I think we all kind of know it's important. Of course, it's one of our core pillars, but like, when COVID hit, it was really a stress test to our industry, right? I mean, the companies that are siloed and don't collaborate or just kind of stale and not innovative, they struggled. I mean, we see it. We all have friends that work for other companies that are still furloughed or working for another company now. And we thrived because we collaborated and because we're innovative and because we can work on our feet real quickly. And I think it just made me realize how important that collaboration is. I don't pay lip service to it anymore. It's truly an important thing. And, it's what's going to help us survive the next COVID, whatever that might be down the road.
Yeah, and it's not top down. I think some people, like when you're in school and you're younger, you think, oh, everything comes from like, the owner of the company and then it trickles down, or the president of the company. You know what I mean? Like there's this belief that things work top down, and in Cora, that's definitely not our model, right? We're not, oh, you have to get approval from here and here. It's really just when you talk about collaboration, it has to be everybody influencing each other, even without authority. Right? You're influencing without that authority.
You're empowered to think for yourself. Yeah, you're empowered to think for yourself and act quickly rather than have to stop and say, "Mother, may I?" to three people above you before you can make the next step. We were all pulled into this, either voluntold or volunteered. But then we were given the freedom to run with it and make it work.
Because if I had to ask permission or if I had to ask questions, there's no way I would have gotten as much done in the time period that I got it done, right? Like, so Christy, I'm sure in the clinic setting, you're being thrown into a completely new idea, something like, and you were like, well, I'm just going to have to figure it out, right? And then you took the information that you knew and that you learned and you shared that information. You also didn't keep it to yourself, right? Because I know Lynn and I would be going back and forth, hey, what about this? What about this? Because we were dealing with a lot of the payers. But if I had just done my stuff and not communicated with anyone else, I think that also is a huge disservice to the growth and the collaboration. So you collaborate on your ideas, but you also collaborate on each step too, right? Not just the outcome, but not just the process as designed, but it's got to be fluid. It's got to be completely fluid, never stagnant, and just allow each person to think and, use what God gave us. You know what I mean? Like we have brains. We don't need permission to think. And I love that.
Yeah, me too. Cool. So what is one piece of practical advice you would give to someone about innovation? What is one piece of practical advice you would give to someone about innovation?
Jamie said it already.
Can't. Throw the word can't out of your vocabulary.
Can't.
Jamie said it. Don't let fear keep you from greatness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is that what you were going to say, Gay?
Yes, absolutely. Do never, ever, ever. I've learned that my whole life. Do not let fear rob you of the best experience of your life, or honestly, 2020 has taught me so much, just so much. We all had fear, but it wasn't just as a company. It was as a nation. It was our patients. You talk to so many elderly, and they don't have even a family support system. They didn't have anybody to teach them how to FaceTime. That was us. They didn't have people to listen. They didn't have family members to listen to their fears. Just so much has come from this. We should not let fear rob us from listening to an opinion or hurt or just showing up for others. That's what we're called to do, to just show up. Set that fear aside. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? We've just said it. We're not going to get our hands slapped, meet people where they are. When I think about 2020 and through telehealth, I encountered so many, especially elderly, with fears. And then I knew we had our own fears. Of course, we did have to flex people out. Our PSCs could have been wondering, is tomorrow going to be the day that I get flexed out? When you look around, you get outside of your shell, your bubble. It's not that fearless leaders don't have times of uncertainty, but when you get outside of your bubble and just forge forward for the betterment of everybody, for serving everyone, ask those hard questions, have discussions about fears, hit them head on, just hit them head on, have discussions.
And don't be afraid of making a mistake along the way. You're going to learn more from the mistakes you make than from your successes. Just, own up to the mistake and then collaborate on how you're going to take that mistake and turn it into a success and move forward.
For sure.
I think I would say is don't go it alone, right? Though you're surrounded by amazing people and amazing minds, not just within Cora, but within our lives in general. And so find that person that's going to push you to that next level and then, use that and engage with that. And I think you'll realize that you can be a lot more innovative than what you give yourself credit for when you have those people that surround you, that push you.
I also think don't stop, right? Like, so sometimes people have like a goal and they reach their goal and they're like, oh, yay, pat myself on the back, I did it. But the product doesn't end there, right? It never ends. There's got to be continued improvements, fine tuning, changes. I mean, 10 years down the road, what we're thinking today is innovative is going to be obsolete, right? But if we live in the now and we expect the now to be constant in the future, then we're left behind. So yes, we've done a great job with telerehab, right? And that's been an amazing opportunity for us, and we've collaborated and we've developed something. But this isn't going to be the only thing that's going to lead us. right? So we have to now start putting our thinking caps on and saying, what's next? You know, this has been a great ride, but what's next? Because we can't just stop and rest here. We may take a breather for the holidays, but we can't stop and rest. We need to, you know what I mean? We need to just keep thinking like, okay, this is great. And it kind of goes along with even, you know, Nick, you were talking about your concern with the benefit of telerehab, right? Like, are they really going to get anything out of it? Well, that also kind of goes along with what we're doing right now. Who would have thought that our annual meeting would have consisted of a virtual recorded session where I'm in Florida, Nick's in South Carolina, Lynn's in North, you know what I mean? Christy's in Jacksonville, and we're actually successfully creating something without having to travel and be in the same room, and we've done that across the board. You know, we have so many more meetings, and I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I have more time. I'm more productive because, you know, telerehab is rehab, but there's also just the telecommunication aspect that we've implemented in so many other parts of Cora. But innovation doesn't stop. That's my biggest thing. It can't stop, right? So we think we've done a great job. We can do better. And it may not be, you know, specifically telerehab, but there's something else out there that we need to be the leaders in. And we need to definitely make sure we're all thinking about that. What's next all the time? What's next?
Lower
What's
back
next?
pain.
Yeah.
That's a good final point, Jamie. Thank you. Don't stop and continue on in 2021. So that concludes our panel discussion today. Thank you guys so much, our panelists, for joining us and sharing your insight. Thank you to our participants. And just catch the game code in the chat feature now in your chat box for the participants. Thank you.
Thank you.